Welcome to TradeSense, where Windward brings together the brightest minds in global trade, maritime security, and AI based technology to break down the biggest developments shaping our industry. Today, we're looking at the shipping hub that is London, in one of the most turbulent geopolitical times in shipping in the last 40 years. I'm Wiese Bockmann, Senior Maritime Intelligence Analyst at Windward. I'm joined by Jos Standerwick, who is the Chief Executive of Maritime London, the trade association responsible for maintaining and growing the UK's position as the world's leading provider of maritime professional services. Jos, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you here. Okay. So let's jump in and begin by perhaps briefly explaining Maritime London's role and its mission.
Yeah, of course, Michelle. Well, Maritime London is an industry-led body. We have 120 members approximately, and we also have the underwriting market represented by the Lloyd's Market Association and the International Association of Underwriters. And our purpose is relatively clear, to maintain and grow London and the UK's presence in the commercial shipping market, particularly in the context of the provision of professional services to the global shipping industry.
So that's legal, insurance, shipbroking, all of those aspects of the
Yeah,
maritime.
of course.
Exactly.
Legal, insurance, shipbroking, maritime accountancy, increasingly maritime technology companies, which are coming into the cluster more and more, and we might discuss that a little bit later. But also an important element to add here is the growth in what I might refer to as asset management within the UK cluster. We've seen significant growth in that area over the past 10 years, and very pleased to say the majority of those asset managers operating in the London market are also members of the association.
So uncertainty is the key word for shipping now, because global trade is reeling from geopolitical shocks, sanctions, decarbonisation, tariffs, trade wars. How does the UK-based services cluster adapt to this evolving environment?
Crikey, that's a long list of things, and
Yeah, yeah.
I think you're
And
right.
it is a crazy time, right?
The confluence of factors that we are experiencing right now, I don't think it is remiss to say unique, although taken in isolation, I think we've experienced all of these things at one point or time over the last 40 to 50 years. I think in general, Michelle, I'm always amazed at how quick the shipping industry adapts to the changes in trade flows forced upon it. So far, I suppose, without a material contribution to the post-COVID inflationary environment which we've all experienced, something that we don't get enough credit for as a market as perhaps we should. And I suppose just like the way in which the global shipping industry has been resilient, so has the London market. In many ways, the London market likes complexity. We have an unrivaled capacity and pool of expertise and an ecosystem largely within London and even more specifically the City of London, which can lean into each other to provide solutions to, as you say, is an incredibly complex operational environment.
Which kind of gets us to Brexit and the changes that have come post Brexit amid this regulatory change and the global competition from Singapore and even now Dubai. How are you responding to these pressures?
Well, Brexit's an interesting one, Michelle, in that obviously, as well you know, this is a uniquely international industry, largely regulated on an international basis. But that isn't to say that Brexit hasn't caused additional operational complexity. I think particularly in the context of loss of passporting rights for the marine insurance market in particular, and the need for the marine insurance market to establish subsidiaries within the European Union. However, I think most of those complexities have now largely been overcome. I think what's pleasing is if you look at the independent reports produced when they assess clusters and market competitiveness, whilst that regulatory friction, I think, is something that we should understand, I don't think it's had a material impact on the sort of operational efficiency of the market.
So, how are we keeping our competitiveness here in London?
Well, I think it goes back to the original point that I made in that, London still has a unique pool of expertise and capacity, which is uniquely well placed to deal with the complexity that the industry is currently experiencing. Of course, I think it's fair to say, relatively, we still have policy and regulatory certainty within the jurisdiction, of course, underpinned by English law, which still represents over 80%, is still the law in over 80% of shipping contracts globally. And given that regulatory environment that we have, English law underpinning everything that we do, the institutions that still exist within the London market, whether that be Lloyd's, whether that be the Baltic Exchange, whether that be the International Group or, of course, the International Maritime Organization, this cluster is still incredibly well placed to compete with global structures and global clusters. And, of course, the other thing I will add is that, just like shipping is remarkably adaptable, so is this market. Now, we can't escape the fact that trade has moved eastwards over the past 40 years. That's just the nature of globalization. But as we have seen that trade flow change, what we have also seen is the UK cluster being remarkably good at exporting. And in actual fact, when you look at the professional services being provided in Singapore, being provided in Dubai, being provided in Shanghai, it is still the London market companies which provide the backbone of those professional services in those jurisdictions.
And that goes back to education institutions as well.
Of
A lot of
course,
people
yeah.
are come to London to be trained shippers.
Education is a huge strength of this cluster, and we should not underestimate the importance of institutions like the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, still headquartered in London and still running its qualifications from its London headquarters. Of course, the famous Bayes School of Shipping, of which so many principals in the global shipping market have been educated at the Costas Gramenos school. We are remarkably proud of that. And of course, what that does is it gives those leading individuals within the global shipping industry an understanding of the London market. So when they are then principals in their own ship owning firms, for example, they understand what the London market can do. And more often than not, they will use the professional services provided in this cluster. And of course, we should also not underestimate the importance of our universities, particularly their law faculties, of which Admiralty law is still an incredibly important constituency part of their overall offer.
Which, of course, brings us to technology, AI, and the role that's having in shaping everybody's work across all fields, but especially in the maritime sector. How's the London market adapting to those challenges?
Well, it's a great question, Michelle, first of all. I think the London market can often be accused of trading on past glories. I think if you look at the evidence and perhaps some of the statistics provided by the maritime technology consultancy firm Theseus, in actual fact, in real investment terms, London has seen more investment in maritime technology companies in terms of equity funding than Singapore, Dubai, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Oslo combined. And in fact, we only sit behind New York when it comes to that equity funding in technology firms. I think the fact that we have such a strong presence of SMEs in the sector providing technology solutions, not only to the ship owning community, but also importantly to the services cluster, is testament to the way in which the London market and the UK market in general is embracing technological solutions. But also look at the material investments that some of the biggest firms in the market, whether they be our insurance brokers or our ship brokers or even our maritime law firms, are making to ensure that they continue to utilize technology to be able to provide the right solutions to clients and ultimately provide value to clients too.
What are some of the more innovative solutions that you've seen, and how's this going to change where we are in 5 years? Do you have a vision or a sort of look ahead?
I think one of the most important ways in which technology is being utilized is understanding the way in which the global fleet is trading and ensuring that those who are exposed to the way in which the global fleet is trading have a good understanding of that and therefore can understand the risk of the business that they are doing. And firms like Windward are central to that, Michelle. The importance of understanding your client or understanding your vessel that you have an exposure to is only going to grow as global trade becomes ever more complex, which unfortunately I think is a trend that we have to expect to see increase over the short to medium term.
Yes, certainly AI is great for visibility. You can take literally millions of data points now and make sense of them, which with AI, which is, I think, when I started out, you know, tracking tankers, in, such a basic way 20 years ago. Everything has just really evolved, and that's just one very small way that things have changed. Um, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time today, Jos. And it was great to explore London's role in, what's really quite a febrile, extremely challenging, geopolitically led shipping landscape. Thank you once again.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. And, I suppose the point is that the London market largely provides services to the global shipping industry. And therefore, we love that sort of complexity in many ways. And, we very much hope we'll be able to continue providing those solutions and those services to the global shipping industry for many years ahead. And thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time. Cheers, Michelle.
If you found this episode informative and useful, please share this video and follow Windward for more insights, and stay tuned. We've got another expert conversation coming up soon.